We're going to call the April 19th meeting to order. Roll call.
Mr. Murray? Here. Mr. Miller? Here. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Vaculett?
Here.
Mrs. Kiefer?
Here. This time we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, does anyone desire to add, delete, or separate any items of the consent agenda as proposed? No? Okay, I just need a motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented for the regular board meeting on April 19th, 2021.
So move.
Support.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Vaculett?
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer?
Yes, motion carries. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held on March 22nd, 2021.
So moved. Support.
Roll call.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Vaculett?
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer?
Yes, motion carries. At this time, is there any board members with correspondence? All right. Mr. Carroll?
Nope.
Nope. Mr. Samola?
Yes, I did receive notification from our art teacher, high school art teacher, that 2 Evergreen students were awarded as winners of the Y County Matters Art Contest. Walter Foster is the 10th grade winner, and Alyssa Chuperti is the 11th grade winner. So I wanted to congratulate both of them for their art skills in winning that contest.
Awesome. Congratulations. At this time, Mr. Samola, would you like to continue recognizing our guests and visitors?
We have a number of guests with us. I'd ask that you please introduce yourself.
Thank you, everyone. We do have some people who are going to present to us tonight. So we will start with Mr. Schmidt to go over your random drug testing privacy concerns. Do we have a microphone, or he uses that one? Okay. There's,
You can hold it, should be fine.
There's a little, yep, thanks, Zach.
So my concern with the random drug testing policy is that the students are, their identities are exposed to all the other students when they get tested. They're all brought out of class and brought down to the gym. I understand the logistics of needing to do that with the contracted company. What I would like to see happen is for parents to have the option of, if their child gets chosen for one of the random drug tests, to be able to get a order from their own physician and be able to take their child to a licensed and accredited outpatient lab and be able to have the test done there. That way it's protected by HIPAA and it's entered into the permanent medical record. I believe that that's actually in the policy for your guys' employees when they get like DOT tested, or if they're a bus driver or something along those lines. I think that it should probably be like that for the students, so that the parents have that option of being able to make sure that their child's privacy is protected.
When we had talked before, you said you talked to our Great Lakes Biomedical, and did they give you any kind of HIPAA information, or?
They don't have any HIPAA, or they're not covered by HIPAA policies or any HIPAA regulations, because when a student provides that sample, they're considered a donor, not considered a patient. So they specialize more in DOT exams as opposed to any sort of medical assessments or anything along those lines. So when it comes right down to it, they aren't subject to
They're not.
HIPAA
They don't have
regulations.
to follow HIPAA.
Mm-hmm. No, I actually, the day that my son was drawn for a random drug test, I obtained an order that was faxed to me within about an hour from our family physician and was going to be able to take him to an outpatient facility that same day, actually after school hours. So it still would have been within the. I don't think that the policy would necessarily have to apply to every single person. I just want the option of being able to, if I feel that I have a concern for the privacy of my son, I want to have the option of being able to have this done under the supervision of our own family physician at my own expense. So when he got drawn for this test, I ended up having to take him out of school the next day to be able to satisfy the 24-hour time limit for the drug testing to be done. So I took him out of school the next day, took him to Perrysburg, where the testing facility was at my own expense, paying for the test and, of course, travel. I could have had that test done 12 hours earlier had I been able to just take him straight from school when he got out that day. I already had the order in hand. I could have taken him right there and paid for it right there at the outpatient facility. And I'm all for making sure it's a accredited outpatient facility. I'd be more than happy to be able to share the results of that with the school, seeing as they're concerned that there would be a positive drug test. I just want to make sure that that's protected health information.
Is there any indication that it's not protected? I haven't looked into it as deeply as you have, obviously, but
So, being in healthcare, everybody in healthcare gets a lot of education on HIPAA and HIPAA policies. It's very, very strict. I mean, essentially, it all boils down to you don't talk about anything about a patient unless you're talking to somebody who's involved in that patient's care. So it's very strict. It's very well regulated. When I talked to the company and asked them what their privacy policy was, essentially, their privacy policy is if we gave this information out to anybody, it would damage our reputation in the community and we wouldn't be able to have as many clients. They're not federally required to keep that information private. They're not required by the state. They're not required by the county. They're not required by the school board. All they're required to do is do the testing. Okay. Mhm. Okay. Okay. Sure. I appreciate the time, guys.
Yeah, at this point, you did bring light to a few things I did not realize. I think I'd like to continue conversation on this. Is there anyone else that?
No, I would. How does this work? Like just a few set of kids get every month, every week, once a month?
Random.
When the test results come back, do they go to Derek? Do they go to yourself? How do they get reported to us?
For the school first. Thank you. Great Lakes Biomedical contacts the parent first, and then we're notified after Great Lakes Biomedical is able to make contact with the parent. Mr. Stopp, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Once there's been a positive identification within the actual setting here at the school, it would go get lab tested. Once it's lab tested, they'd verify with the parent that for no reason that this substance would be found in their child's system for any reason. From there, once it's lab tested, identified as a positive, then I would receive paperwork via email that would identify that we did have a positive case and what said positive case was for what substance.
Okay, so on site, they'll know right away if it's negative, it doesn't leave here. If anything is objective, then they take it to the lab.
Correct.
This is just athletics or any extracurricular?
Currently identified by the board as just athletics.
Your primary concern was privacy of results or privacy of testing?
Both. So if all the kids are taken to wherever the test is conducted at, when I came, when our oldest daughter was still in school, it was in the gym. All the kids obviously can see each other and they all know who's being tested. If for myself, if I was able to get a phone call from the school, hey, Adam's number got pulled, I'd be able to take him, get him tested within the 24-hour time period. None of his friends would know about that. None of the staff would know about that. Nobody would know about that except for the administration. It would keep that all locked up. If it's a positive test and for some reason this identified early for me that my son has a drug problem, I would like to have that information as private as possible as we seek some kind of help. But it would be very public because all of a sudden he wouldn't be playing baseball anymore. So that's a worry for me. I mean, hopefully not the drug part of it, not the, I'm not concerned that my son's got a drug problem, and I'm not saying that this doesn't have value, the policy. I just don't want to see.
I follow you.
Kid,
I understand that too, but just on top of that, if you took your kid somewhere and he's positive, he's still not going to play baseball, so they're still going to know. I mean,
yeah, but technically they wouldn't know why because it would be protected medical information. So
right?
If
but
I didn't want to disclose that it was due to drugs, I wouldn't have to disclose if it was due to a hernia or it was due to a whatever
Right.
it might be, a positive COVID test, whatever. But because it would be, he would publicly be seen lined up for a drug test, and then all of a sudden he's not in baseball anymore, that would be a pretty good indication that that's why he's not in baseball anymore.
Derek and Dan, is there a way we can, I'm just concerned about creating any kind of loophole. Is there a way we can look at and maybe having something that if they don't want, their child has to be tested. If they don't want them to be submitted through biomedical, can they sign in our sports athletics that if my child's number or name comes up, you contact me, they have 12 hours, 24 hours before the next morning, however we usually have that. Is there a way we can do that without creating any kind of loopholes? Will you guys look and bring us something to see?
Right now, board policy
Yeah.
outlines the procedure, so.
Is yes, and we'll have to change it. But I want to see what a potential would look like without creating any extra headache. I mean, because if you guys have to make one phone call to one parent, I understand where he's coming from. Having medical information out there that, yeah, here we're not sharing anything, but we don't know what biomedical is doing. So I'd like to see something, if you guys can put something together and get it to us on like just an update or something before the next meeting, and we can look at it and discuss from there. Everybody on the board okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, my only concern with changing it is if you give a 24-hour window, there opens up a 24-hour window for foul play as well.
It's already in the policy that if you refuse to test, you've got 24 hours to test and still be compliant. So
At the school?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you don't, like say, if you can't produce a sample, 24 hours from the
Gotcha.
time that the tech.
I have the policy
So
here
it's a
if you want
concern
to.
either way for me, honestly.
Yeah.
Here's the policy if you want to read it.
Yeah, I would.
If we can create, just like the same thing, like you said, if they can't produce it, or like you guys did, you didn't do the sample here, so you went that next morning. That's not, giving them that time frame. I think is fine, but I think we'd also have to have the results as like a stat order type thing, like we get our results back. We can't wait for a week for results. If that's the case, then maybe they sit out those games until they get the results. Something like that. Like we need to kind of set up a protocol and look at before we. But I think putting it into this policy isn't, if you've read through the policy, it would just be giving them that opportunity to protect that information a little bit. So I'm open to having a discussion about that next meeting if we can get some information from you guys. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
Yes, thank you. How was that policy?
I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, 2010.
2010. Yep.
And it is just athletics?
At this
I-
point, yeah.
I would like to
That's
look
right,
at
say that
all
too.
extracurricular.
I mean, and
on
that's
that.
something that we can add. All right, this time we have Mr. Scott Gruber from Meter Investments.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for letting me come in and talk to everybody. Been working with the district as the investment advisor. Started with Denise, obviously, and getting privileged to get to know Brian and continue on. So I wanted to just give everyone an update. Obviously a crazy last 12 months here in the financial markets and just life in general. So I'll give you a lay of the land, where we stand today, what we're looking at, and then how things are looking moving forward. Fortunately, I don't have my crystal ball, so we don't have all the answers, but doing our best to put the district in the right position. So it all starts with the economics as well as the the outlook and financial forecast. So looking at the economics separately, this time last year the Fed cut interest rates very quickly. One of the fastest times they cut interest rates in history. So basically, we topped out around 2.5% on the Fed funds rate. They saw the impacts that the shutdown around the world was going to have on the economy, and so they slashed the overnight Fed funds rate, basically taking it from 2% down to 0% in a very short amount of time. So the impact that has is on short-term interest rates. Your checking, savings accounts, money market accounts, basically anything 2 months in went from 2% down to, like I said, almost 0%. So leveraging a longer-term investment portfolio like ourselves and what we're doing for the district definitely helps to hedge away those fast movements in interest rate cycles. We're obviously not out buying stocks, high lucrative securities. It's all very short-term, highly protected bonds and corporate issuers. So hedging and duration management is really where the value comes in to make sure we're maximizing earnings, but also maintaining plenty of liquidity in the event that forecast turns and changes. You guys have some projects on the horizon, those types of things. So making sure that's all. But when you look at page 2 here, there's 2 mandates that we're really focusing on. It's inflation as well as the jobs market. That's what the Fed is watching, and that's how they're going to determine how they move interest rates going forward. So, you could say we're kind of on the upswing coming out of the pandemic. I think we still have a long ways to go, but when you look at consumer spending, it's a big measure of inflation and kind of the heartbeat of how the economy is doing. The 2 main things to take away from this is the sectors of consumer expenditure. There's the goods sector and there's the service sector. You can see the goods sector is doing very well. Coming out of the pandemic, people stopped spending money on leisurely and hospitality type services and traveling, and they started putting stuff into their homes, building patios, improving home offices, those types of things. So the goods service is actually done, or the goods sector is actually done very well. The service sector is really where we got hit. Restaurants, hospitality, airlines, transportation. That service sector is been hit very hard by the pandemic, and that's what remains to be recovering coming out of this. So that's really the majority of where the job losses are. When you look on page 3, this is a snapshot of non-farm payrolls, meaning basically how many jobs have we added or subtracted from the labor force each month. You can see this time last year we lost a ton of jobs, and it was because basically restaurants closed, hotels closed, and the lower income, medium income earners were basically out of a very short amount of time there. started to improve throughout the summer, and then we lost jobs again in December as COVID started to pick back up. We had more shutdowns in place throughout the country, and then now we're slowly starting to tick up. But when you look at the job market out there, I mean, we still have a lot of gap to go. And so, you've seen a lot of these extended benefits, unemployment benefits being pushed out, the stimulus checks being pushed out, which is great, but it's also incentivizing people not to go back to work. So we have a long ways to go before we get the labor market back to where it needs to be. The Fed is well aware of this. So, the Fed can't really control what the government is doing to a certain extent, but they're also monitoring the gap as well as the inflation outlook. When we start to talk about inflation, the increase of goods over a certain amount of time, we are naturally going to see goods, and the price of stuff increasing from this time last year, the economy was shut down. So when you look at the percent change from a year ago, things are going to be higher. So the Fed is taking that into consideration as well. You're starting to hear about inflation starting to increase out there. We are not concerned that we're going to get back into the 70s and 80s where we had hyperinflation. That is not a concern of ours. They were pumping money into the economy coming out of 2008. We didn't hardly see any inflation. But naturally, we do feel you're going to see a slight increase in inflation. And for that reason, you've actually started to see interest rates out longer start to increase. And out longer is 5 years and out, which unfortunately is not an area that we're buying stuff for. So there's a pivot area between 3 to 5 years that we have seen a slight increase in interest rates, which has been good for the portfolio. But the front end there remains very anchored. So on page 4, you can see just the change in the yield curve. So 1 month rates are basically what the Fed impacted a year ago, took it from 1.5% to 0%. But longer term rates, 10-year and 30-year rates, are actually close to where we were pre-pandemic. So there has been some improvements, but unfortunately, in the areas that we are investing, rates are still pretty low compared to where they were a year ago. On the 5th page here, when you look at the Federal Reserve outlook, this is really driving what we're doing in the portfolio. Are we buying out longer? Are we buying out shorter? And so if there's an expectation that the Fed is going to start raising interest rates, we will then shorten the portfolio up so that we can take advantage of those rates as they're starting to go up. But right now you can see here that bottom portion of that table, it's 0.1 for the next couple of years. So that's saying that the Fed is not expected to raise interest rates for quite some time. And so for that reason, we're still remaining very balanced in the portfolio, still taking advantage of those 3 to 5 year rates where we can. But we also understand there's the forecast is somewhat declining, and so we won't want to put too much funds out longer. That way liquidity is plentiful and you guys have access to your cash as it's. Before I jump into the portfolio, any questions on the economic outlook? Awesome. So page 7 here is a nice snapshot of where we were at the end of March. So we had just over 9.8 million invested, 4.2 in cash. That cash number is going to be very cyclical. So, timing of receiving revenues and property taxes and income taxes. So that cash is going to sway back and forth. The amount invested has been pretty steady over the last year or so. And you'll see where we're really changing things is that maturity distribution. So as the forecast changes, as the outlook changes in the economy, that's where we're really adjusting things. This time a year ago, we had a little bit more out in that 3 to 5 year area. But because of the forecast, we don't want to put too much out longer until things start to change and making sure that we're not overextending and overinvesting. In the event the forecast were to stay where it is, we don't want to run out of money per se in 3 to 5 years. So being very prudent and understanding the outlook of the district is very important. And then lastly, they're looking at the asset allocation. We are favoring FDIC insured products. U.S. government agencies are very big right now as well. And then the other key thing is the weighted average yield. So the weighted average yield is a 1.24%. That really highlights the importance of locking funds up before interest rates collapsed last year. Because if you remember looking at that yield curve, a year ago, rates were around 1.5%. Today, overnight rates are basically 0. So we were able to lock in and hedge away some of that interest rate movement before things collapsed. I know 1% is a huge number, but in my world, it's very exciting. So it's good to see that, and really very good here. all things considered.
Those are mostly in 3 years, 3 or less.
Yeah, majority of it. Yeah.
As those expire, do you anticipate that we'll be able to keep something like a 1.24?
Actually, because of the interest rate moves over the last couple of years or last couple of months, we've actually seen rates increase to about 0.75 to 1%, depending on the part of the curve we're investing in. So
Okay.
it will continue to drop slowly, but not as fast as what we were seeing since rates have increased slightly along the curve. Yep. It'll really depend on the outlook of the forecast. So if the forecast continues to stay where it is and it's in a deficit situation, we'll have to continue to shorten up the portfolio too. And so the shorter we go right now, the lower interest rate. Yep. Yeah. So a couple of variables in play there. On page 8, you'll see the cash flow analysis, and this is more just for talking points. Brian and I get into this in a lot more detail, but just really overlaying the economic picture with the forecast of the district. So you'll see we are starting to deficit spend there. So that's why we're being a little more light out in that 3 to 5 year area, making sure we're not overextending the forecast or anything like that. But this is something that he and I are get into pretty regularly. As income revenues and that stuff start to change, we'll adjust this as well. So that's the quick and dirty of any question. I will say we're a little more optimistic right now than we were this time last year. I'm sure all of you are as well. It was very great this time last year. No one really knew what was going to happen when things started shutting down. So, any questions for me?
I have one. In looking at this and in doing your portfolio review, are there any changes that we as a board should be looking at making to the policy statement, the investment policy statement, anything like that as we move forward, looking at longer maturities? I mean, what would you recommend?
That's a good question. So right now, the board policy is actually well in line with the state code, which is what we would recommend. So basically, it gives us access to invest whatever the state says we can invest. The alternative would be you'd be more restricted. At this time, I wouldn't recommend that just because we don't really see any major impacts or risk to the asset classes that we can and can't buy. As far as maturity lengths, that's more dependent upon what Brian is comfortable with, what the outlook is. So at this time, I wouldn't have any recommendations on adjustments to the policy. So right now, we're in good shape there.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Gruber?
Thank you for coming in. I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for making
Yes.
the trip.
No,
We
thank you.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
of course.
Thank you very much.
We don't get a foot of snow like tomorrow.
That's what made me say December. It was just.
Yeah.
Well, it's good seeing all you.
Yep.
If,
Thank
any
you.
questions come up, directly with Brian or myself directly, and
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. At this time, Mr. Carroll, would you like to go over your financial reports?
Sure. So you have a packet in front of you there. First page is our cash reconciliation. Those are all the funds and where they are right now. Next, we have the cash summary. This is broken down by fund, where the money is. And the following page is the disbursement summary. These are the cash or the checks that we have written this month. The general fund report that you'll see, everything is looking good right now. We are in shape as far as the percentage of school year that we have completed and what we've collected or have spent. May is a big month for us as far as beginning to wrap up the fiscal year. And later next week, we will be receiving our last and final income statement or income collection for this year. And that could be down, up, right in line. It's kind of hard to say right now. So I'm looking forward to that. And the last page is our payroll and benefits. Again, we're in line of where we expected to be. So again, May is a big month for us. We're working hard in the office right now to kind of finalize payments and finish up POs and get those closed out. So that way, June, we can really close up the end of the fiscal year. So we've been working hard, getting ready for next year already. So Betty and Melissa in the office are doing really well and getting ready. So
Awesome. Any questions for Mr. Carroll?
Just real quickly, I see that the United Roofing and Metal, a gigantic check.
Yes,
Is that the end of it? That's the final payment for the
Correct.
roof?
So you'll see on the very first page that cash reconciliation. And our outstanding checks is pretty significant,
Mhm.
and that check is in there. Okay. And it has been taken care of and cashed or deposited. So,
Okay,
but that was for the.
so it's no longer outstanding?
Correct.
Okay, so, but that's the last payment on the roof, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Awesome. Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll.
Thank you.
We'll move into the financial section of our agenda. So I need a motion that will approve the March 2021 financial reports we just went over with Mr. Carroll. We'll also need to accept the following donations: a $100 anonymous donation to the Student Assistant Fund, $200 from Mr. Patrick Abeck to the class of 2022. We need a motion to increase the tournament fund, $350 for tournament games on 2/24/21 to a transfer for the net amount to Fund 300. We also need to approve a revised auxiliary service agreement with the Educational Service Center of Lake Erie West for the 2020-21 school year in the amount of $73,337.20 for the services of auxiliary service personnel for the benefit of Holy Trinity Schools and to amend resources and modify appropriations accordingly.
So move.
Questions or discussion?
Quick question. The Holy Trinity School, that's the pass-through, correct?
Correct.
From
So
the state through us to them.
correct. So at the end of the year, there were a couple just tweaks, if you
I
will.
assumed that it was. I just wanted to verify. Thank
Sure.
you.
Further questions? All right, roll call.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Vaculek,
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. Move on to personnel. We need a motion to non-renew all supplemental and people service contracts such as coaches, club moderators, etc. for the 2021 school year effective at the conclusion of the current school year. We also need a motion for the Evergreen Local Board of Education to offer the following supplemental contracts to be paid from the general fund for the 20 to 21 school year for Mr. Chris Lyons, instrumental for spring musical. We need a motion to approve Henry Roberts as a seasonal worker to maintain campus grounds as needed during the 2021 mowing season. Compensation is set at $18 per hour at a maximum of 40 hours per week, beginning May 3rd, 2021, and ending on August 13th, 2021. The superintendent or the superintendent's designee will make all work assignments. We also need a motion to employ the following students at a minimum wage to help as needed during the summer months of 2021: Jacob Blanchard and Morgan Kohler. At this time, I just need a motion to approve the above listed personnel positions.
So moved.
Support.
Questions or discussion?
So that Henry Roberts, that's the only time he's going to work here.
He also subs in the cafeteria and as a bus driver, but that is seasonal employment for outside.
And he's going to make sure all that's done before
Yes,
coming in to help on anything.
correct.
Is
Alright.
he the one we had last year?
Yes,
Okay.
he had the grounds looking great around the building. So
Yep.
He sure did.
Awesome. Okay. Further discussion or questions? All right, Mr. Carroll, roll call.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Vaculek,
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. This time we'll move on to other business. We need a motion to approve updates to the current board policy, which includes new revised and replacement policies. The following policies are recommended for approval, and there's a long list there if you want to read through them. All right, I just need a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Questions or discussion? All right, roll call.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Vaculek,
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. We need a motion to approve an agreement with the Northwest Ohio Educational Service Centers to cooperatively participate in special education services for fiscal year 21 to 22 at an estimated cost of $808,906.63. The board and Northwest Ohio Educational Service Center agree that $733,906.63 of this amount shall be paid pursuant to revised code 3313.845 or applicable law by having this amount deducted from the board's state foundation payment, with any remaining balance being invoiced and paid directly to the Northwest Ohio Educational Service Center.
So moved.
Support.
Questions or discussion? All right, roll call.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Abstain.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Vaculek,
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. We need a motion to approve continued participation in the OHI Optimal Health Initiatives Charter Work Compensation Group Rating Program for the 22 calendar year.
So moved.
Support.
Questions or discussion?
Is there any competition in that, or is that just like the only? Is it like a state approved workers' compensation? Is there any competition, or do we shop at all for that?
There is competition. But this is a group that primarily schools in Northwest Ohio do use. So yes, there is competition. And this is what we have done last year. And this is what we were proposed with for this year.
Okay. No one else came up and approached us and said, "Hey, we'd like the business," or anything else.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Is it part of like a consortium type situation? Okay. All right, any further questions? All right, roll call.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Vaculek,
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. This time we need a motion to approve a 21-22 year service agreement between Healthcare Process Consulting and Evergreen Local School District for the purpose of HPC assisting in managing the district's Ohio Medicaid school program in order to procure federal medical reimbursement for Medicaid eligible services provided by the district. The term of this agreement should be for 1 year, commencing on July 1st, 2021 and ending on June 30th, 22, both dates inclusive to an annual fee of $4,000. Renewal and or amendments of this agreement can be made upon mutual agreement of both parties prior to its expiration.
So move.
Support.
Questions or discussion? All right, Mr. Carroll?
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Vaculek,
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. We need a motion to approve an agreement with Northwest Ohio Educational Service Center to provide training, support, resources, and handbooks to all mentor program participants for the 21-22 school year.
So moved. Support.
Questions or discussion? All right, roll call.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Vaculek,
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. We need to authorize the purchase of new K through 5 ELA curriculum program Wonders from McGraw-Hill 2020 edition. The new program better aligns with Ohio's learning standards and includes textbooks, web-based software, teacher materials, and initial and ongoing professional development for the implementation of an approximate amount of $97,842.91.
So moved.
Support.
Question or discussion? Ms. Swineford, would you like to say anything about it? I know you gave us the big thing and you kind of report to us after, but might be a good time to put anything in about this.
Absolutely. So we looked at 3 different resources, and this was the one that was best aligned to the expectations set by the teachers through a scoring rubric aligned with the curriculum standards set by the state and state assessments. I can tell you that this was not the initial amount that was offered to us or quoted to us. And so I was able to negotiate and also get the free intervention piece as well.
Great. Thank you. All right, any questions? All right, Mr. Carroll, roll call.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Vaculek,
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. At this time, Mr. Smolla, would you like to take over with discussion and information?
Sure. Wanted to give a follow-up on our student lunch program. Earlier this year, we began exploring the possibility of contracting with outside food service provider That process required the district to gain ODE approval for Evergreen to post a public request for proposal. On March 30th, the RFP notice was made public. On April 14th, 6 companies attended a pre-bid meeting and walkthrough here at the district. It currently is out for proposal. The deadline for proposals is April 28th. We intend to review those proposals and invite in 2 or 3 companies to present to the committee to determine if an outside provider is what is best for our students and the district. Any contract would need to be approved by the Board of Education at the May meeting. So we are in the process. The proposals can come in, we can rule. Right now, we don't know what they're offering, so it may be great for the district, it may not be. So we will evaluate that and then decide how we want to move forward. Any questions? Second item, the renovation project. On April 6th, the high school locker room renovation and expansion was sent out for bid. The pre-bid walkthrough for interested contractors is tomorrow at 1:30. The bid opening is set for Tuesday, May 4th at 12 o'clock. And the best bid will then be presented to the board for approval at the May meeting. So we picked up where we left off when we put everything on hold a year ago. So we'll see how the bids come back in and the board can decide how they want to proceed.
Give any indication of how many contractors are going to come look at it?
I do not know that. I can let you know after tomorrow. I will put that in an update this week.
It's all the same drawing? Or
Yes, nothing changed with the plan.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Small? All right. Mrs. Draheim.
Good evening. Just a couple of updates here for air testing. Our students in grades 3 through 5 have completed the ELA portion of the air assessments, and we will be doing fourth grade math assessments this week. Following grades 3 and 5, we'll be completing math and science. We also determined, because of the uncertainty of the weather this week, if we should have a 2-hour delay or school is canceled, that we would just resume testing the next school day. It's not great testing conditions when kids are nervous, they come to school late, and then we're just hoping that we give them that extra day to just take it easy and do their best on the test. We had honor roll for third quarter, where students received a certificate and a pencil, as well as a bomb pop for all of their hard work for earning all A's or the honor roll for the third quarter. We do have Staff Appreciation Week coming up, and we are planning to do some relaxing things for our staff who've gone through this crazy COVID school year. And so we're arranging some nice things for them, as well as MVP, our parent club, does something each day of the week to show the teachers and the staff how much they appreciate everything that they do at our school. The fifth grade will be visiting the middle school on May 14th. The fifth grade will also be going to Greenfield Village. It's the only field trip that was approved this year, but it's a special send-off to the fifth graders that is paid for by our MVP. They pay the admission fee for all of our fifth graders, just as a thank you and a send-off as they go off to the middle school. We have Right to Read Week planned, as well as Field Day. And the theme for our Right to Read Week is We're Wild About Reading, and that will carry over into our theme for next school year. Field Day is also something that we are planning. These were events that were not able to take place last year because of COVID. So the school is very excited. The teachers as well as the students are excited about these events to close out the school year. And then, speaking of the end of the school year, kindergarten screening will take place that last week of school with our kindergarten students that are currently enrolled. Their last day of school will be May 21st, as well as, I believe, preschool will also be ending May 21st. They will be doing some transition meetings that week, the last week of school. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Roofer.
Good evening. Well, it's that crazy time of year in the school year. We got staff evaluations finishing up, teacher roster verification, state testing, planning for next year. So hang on tight as we get through the end of the year. March 23rd, we had 6th and 7th graders participate in a youth leadership summit through HC3 that was done virtually. We're starting to look at scheduling for next year. Met with all current 7th graders since we're adding some new electives. Explain that. Mrs. Hannafin and Mrs. Rosti came in and presented on family consumer science and introduction to ag. I want to give a big shout out to the middle school staff. About a month ago, I presented during no new instruction during state testing. We weren't having homework, and I posed a challenge that the staff had to find ways on how are we going to help our kids the most. And I had teams getting together. They were looking at kids, looking at data. Where were kids weak? What can we do to help them? I was really excited to see our staff actually sit down and collaborate and look at kids and find ways to better support them. So they did a very good job. They stepped up to the challenge. I'm very appreciative of that. Just like the elementary, middle school state testing's underway, VVA and in person. We have ELA is done, and 8th grade science will get done this week, and then math the following. Summer school, we're changing it up a bit this year. We're doing 1 week for math, 1 week for language arts, and then a week for science and social studies combined. We're making some adjustments. We want to make it a little more beneficial, look at data, see where kids are weak at, spend some more time helping prepare them for the next year. And last on the list is on April 21st is Administrative Assistance Day. I just want to give a big shout out to Lisa Pluso. She makes my life a lot easier and makes sure the middle school building is operating smoothly. So I want to thank her for all her work as we recognize all the secretaries on April 21st.
Great. Thank you,
That is it.
Mr. Roofer.
Thank you.
All systems go for Camp Palmer.
We are good to go. Letters have gone out to families. We're collecting money. So all systems go for now.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It is, like Mr. Roofer said, it is a busy time of year. Lots of things coming around here. It's hard to believe we have only 6 weeks of school left here. So I want to first congratulate our Viking performers who stream or performed live or performed through a stream this weekend, performing the Secret Garden. So I know they worked a lot, put in a lot of hours to prepare, and definitely a unique situation, being as though it was a streamed live performance. And I thought they did a really great job. So congratulations to all of those students. We have approximately 35 local scholarship deadlines that either have concluded or are quickly approaching. It truly is a testament to our community to be able to offer that many local scholarships to support kids and what they happen to plan to be doing here after graduation. So we'll be collaborating for many of those to organize some internal teacher teams and staff teams to be able to review those applications. Um, we have a couple of students I'd like to point out. Derek Cobb is a current junior attending at Four County in the Mechanical Systems and Piping program at Four County Career Center. He was awarded the Four County Student of the Month here this month, so congratulations to him. That's Four County wide. It's always really nice to have an Evergreen student being acknowledged in that way. Also, congratulations to Jacob Blanchard. Jacob was awarded the Land Grant Opportunity Scholarship and will be attending Ohio State University here in the fall. The Land Grant Opportunity Scholarship only awards 176 of those scholarships, and that'll pay for his full cost of attendance at Ohio State. So it's a really great opportunity for him, and I know he's worked really hard for that. So we have a couple of things. I know we sent out to our senior parents here just this last week, finalizing some plans for graduation. In order to safely comply with Ohio's health orders, we will again be offering an in-person graduation opportunity for all of our seniors, but we'll be limiting attendance to 6 guests per graduate. Current Ohio health order requires us to limit attendance to 25% capacity to indoor arenas and gatherings. So We are going to be opening a box office. We're going to be using hometown ticketing, the same program that Mr. Staup had started this year for our athletic programs. It will be free to attend for all of our families, but they will have to get online and register for a ticketed access just so that not only can we assess numbers, but as well as know who specifically is in attendance if for whatever reason we have a COVID related issue. So,
I have been asked about this already. If there's unused tickets from one family, are we going to have like a list or something to be for people to be able to get extra tickets over their six?
yeah, so we will be collecting, any additional tickets. We once we get closer to graduation, without a doubt. I know our athletics, specifically when the order was out for athletics, it was really supposed to be friends and close family members. They've really kind of let go some of those initial orders. And really, at the end of the day, if there's a student or family that wants to lend another ticket to another family that's not going to use them, they can certainly do that.
Okay.
There will come a time here. I would hate for tickets to go unused, so we'll definitely, as a worst case scenario, when we get a week or two before graduation, things that are unused, we can definitely push those things out to the community to make sure we account for all of those seats for everyone to be able to see their kids graduate at once, too.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Concerning the ticketing, real quick, I know for athletic events there was a fee associated with it. I'm assuming the school is going to either there will be no fee or the school will cover it.
Yeah, the fee had to do with purchasing online or cost online for the credit card aspect of things. So this will be a free event, and there will be no fee whatsoever. So yes, sir. The other questions about graduation? No. So again, that box office will open on May 3rd. So we'll make sure we have that on the school website. I sent out a letter with the link, but once we get a little bit closer to that date, I'll forward that off to families as well, so they have a quick, easy way to obtain tickets. So. And the last thing I guess I wanted to point out, we had another athletic boosters meeting here this particular month. Like to thank the following four people for their work and effort with the Evergreen Athletic Boosters. I know they had announced during our meeting last week that they would not be running for reelection. They spent a lot of time and hours and energy participating in the Evergreen Athletic Boosters, and formally said that they're going to be stepping away. So thank you again to Michelle Herr, Debbie Campbell, Teresa Bryson, and Linda Arquette. We've got elections coming up, so hopefully we have some people that are willing to step up and take over that responsibility and help move forward in that regard. So that is all I have, unless you have any questions.
Of course, I have one quick question. I know in the past, and I know we're in the COVID era now, so things can change. In the past, the seniors did a walkthrough at the elementary school. I know it was meaningful to the seniors, and I didn't know if that would be something that would be able to be done this year or not. Because with most of the kids, not all of them, started on the other side of the football field and spent 6 or 7 years over there, made the progression. But I know that was meaningful to them in the past.
Is that something maybe we could do on the turf or around the elementary or something, or the back service, close off back service, something like that if we're concerned about?
Yeah, I
service?
can I can absolutely. I've seen that done other places, and I know it's been well received from both ends of the spectrum. I know in years past, my first year here, I believe we had graduation later, and it didn't quite work out time wise. But since we've moved graduation forward a week, I can certainly work with Mrs. Draheim and see if we can make that a possibility.
I know that it's some sort of walkthrough through the elementary, so they can go through the halls one more time. Just
Right.
something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Great. All right. Anything further from Mr. Curtis? All right, Mrs. Swineford.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Actually, I'm quite the opposite in the curriculum department. This is a slow time of year. In all reality, though, it is curriculum resource adoption time. So not only did we adopt the Wonders 2020, we have a new environmental science course that is going to be starting this fall in the high school. We are adopting, it's through Savas Learning Company, UC Pearson. It is called Environmental Science, Your World, Your Term. We're going to get a 6-year subscription, print and digital, plus student workbooks for about $4,000. In addition to curriculum, we have at our elementary, Sharon Lipitsky, the guidance counselor, does a really nice job with guidance lessons once a week. And she has been using the second step, it's a social emotional curriculum with the upper elementary. And she has requested to have that for kindergarten through second grade. The nice thing about it, it ties into the row and the PACS visions within the district or within the building. And it aligns with the focusing on that whole child piece. So we are going to get that for her as well for kindergarten through second grade. So it's going to be about $630 for those 3 grades. The Viking Virtual Academy. So there's been a lot of questions asked. Are we going to be offering that again next year? We are going to offer some type of format with it. It is not going to be like it is this year. We are still going to use the Nova platform. The thing is, though, it is going to be an application process. Very similar to the open enrollment process that we have for our district. This has been already shared out to our families through the superintendent update, and it's going to be going out through the VBA students as well. So they'll fill it out. It's going to be based on need. We're going to look at having that process done by May 21st. That will allow us to prepare for next school year, especially when it comes to class list and course offerings. The other piece that is going to be different for next year, this year we allowed at the high school, the school's PLP curriculum that Nova uses offers a lot of different courses. And we opened it up. The thing is, though, for our high school teachers to support the students for classes that they're not maybe familiar with teaching, it was really hard to provide that quality feedback. And so next year, we're only going to allow the students, the high school students, to take classes that are offered here on campus through the virtual academy. So it's still going to be the Nova platform, but we wouldn't necessarily have that fundamentals of ecology class or that class that deals with computer coding compared to what we have here. So we're going to do some limits as well. And then 2 other pieces. First, I'm going to skip here one quick thing. So back early January, Governor DeWine signed into House Bill 436. It's dyslexia legislation. Although this does not impact us for the next school year, we need to start planning for it next year and based on the requirements, because we will be required to do implementation of specific requirements for the 22-23 school year. Last thing, though, that I feel is really important, this year we implemented a weighted grading scale at the high school. With that, it really had an impact on our students. I am really pushing for or proposing that we implement a Latin honor system beginning with the class of 2022. So what that's going to do is we're still going to honor a salutatorian, we're still going to honor a valedictorian, but it's also going to allow us to honor those students, those that are high achieving, to honor more students. So we would have summa cum laude, which is our highest recognition. And those are our students that are 3.9 or higher cumulative GPA on a weighted grading scale. Magna cum laude, which is the second highest, that's 3.7 to 3.89. And then cum laude, which would be that 3.5 to 3.69. Again, we just really want to honor all of our students' achievements, and this will give us that opportunity to honor more students. Any questions? So see, it was rather a slow time.
I have a quick question on the Viking Virtual Academy.
Absolutely.
So we're looking at offering it again next year.
Absolutely.
Are we looking at offering this indefinitely, or when COVID starts to wind down, we're going to eliminate it?
So what I said in a webinar today, and that is one thing I had said on previously too, the Ohio Department of Education is asking districts to offer a blended approach. This is going to be based on need. So it may be looking at a student with a that's health compromised, which we have done that in the past already, or a family, giving them that option. We're going to look at too, as far as attendance. Have they taken an online class before? How is their academics? We have quite a few students that the VVA was not at all like it was in the last spring. And it has really presented a lot of challenges, not just for our students, but for our families. And we're seeing learning gaps where the students are struggling. We are offering a summer school also at the elementary to help close some of those learning gaps.
So we're looking at least another calendar year and then reevaluate at the end of next
Possibly.
year. Okay.
But we did have the program before. We were part of the NOVA platform pre-COVID, and select students for based out of need were able to utilize it. It blew up with the pandemic.
Okay.
So we're looking at kind of scaling it back going forward.
Okay.
And we use the NOVA program. We've used it, it used to be Pearson, but it's NOVA for credit recovery. So we will
Okay.
still offer that credit recovery piece as well.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Samola.
Yes, I wanted to touch on the recent survey that was conducted regarding the NWAL. We sent out surveys to gain the perception, attitudes, and opinions of current parents and guardians, as well as high school and middle school students regarding the potential of a league change. The survey was designed to assist me in providing the board with information. Is this something we need to continue to explore, or there's no support for it? So the data was collected using an emailed survey to all of the registered students, students and parents and guardians to their email addresses. So at all levels, if two parents had an email in our Power School system, they both received the survey. So it went out to all parents in the district and then all of the students in high school and middle school. A total of 218 parents and 147 students responded. The survey was open from April 6th to April 14th. Just want to touch on a few of the key findings that we got back in those results. One of them, we were hoping for close to 100% participation. The response rate overall was only 19.8%. So 80.2% of the total possible respondents didn't complete the survey. So it went out to 1,915 individuals and only 1,550 did not reply. So looking at the parent feedback, 81% stated they felt adequately informed about a possible league change. 46 stated they supported district administration exploring league options outside of the NWAL. 40% did not support looking at it, and 14% were undecided. 29% of parents stated that they supported leaving the NWAL at this time. 46% did not support leaving, and 24% were undecided. Looking at the student feedback, 52% of the students in high school and middle school did not feel informed about a potential league change, to 48% that did feel that they were informed. 22% stated they supported exploring league options outside the NWAL. 45% did not support it, and 33% were undecided. 13% stated they supported leaving the NWAL AOL at this time, and 54% did not support leaving, and 34 were undecided. What I felt was very valuable was the comment section. Many parents and students expressed why they felt Evergreen should leave or should not leave, as well as why the district does not have a league-winning legacy. These open-ended responses included some themes that included reviewing coaches and their abilities, building strong youth athletic programming, that some sports are more competitive than others, and that should be considered. Changing leagues as not necessary came through. A league change would provide the Vikings with the most matched opportunities and more. So that was just some of the themes through the comments. Looking at the overall survey, the results of the survey clearly indicate there is strong support for Evergreen athletics. Due to the low participation rate, the survey finds most of the families didn't respond. So it's how do we gauge the no response? With only 20% responding, no clear outcomes can be determined. We do know that more than half of the students indicated they did not feel adequately informed about the situation. So that may be an area, if we're moving forward, we need to provide some education to them. At this time, more information needs to be collected. The survey results and open-ended responses need to be explored more in depth, and students need to feel informed, and options need to continue to be considered and evaluated, if that's the direction the board would like to go.
At this time, do we want to, do you have anything else, Mr.
Nope,
Samola?
I just wanted
Okay.
to give an update on that with all of the building reports.
Okay. So the first thing I want to address when I read through them is they asked if they're going to be shared to the public. I would like to do that. I don't know if there's an easy way to pull them together. If you can pull all I don't know how Google does it. If you can pull all the platforms together, and share this information so everybody can see. If you can put all the students together and all the parents together, and have kind of two platforms. I don't know if does Google allow you to do that? Tony's saying yes. Okay.
Collate anything you need out of the
Okay.
survey responses.
So that we can, I mean, I printed off probably a good 45 pages of, and I don't think we need to, but if we can compile and put all the students together, all of the parents together, that way people can see everything we saw here. Make it as transparent as we can. I do think that that's important. I know the other thing I have noted on all of mine is the youth sports programs. And if we leave NWAL or not, I think this is something we have to look at now. Is it something that the school takes on by itself? I don't think so. But I think it's something maybe the school can furnish fields or courts or whatever sport it may be so that we have one local team, one not Lions team, Berkey team, Metamora, but we have an Evergreen team of fourth grade boys that are playing basketball or whatever it is. I don't know what the financials look like on that. I don't, that's something we might need to talk to each local village about coming together as a group, as a whole community, and maybe furnishing fields and things like that. But I think that's definitely something we need to get rolling. I don't know if that's something we need to make a committee with maybe.
I think you need to maybe be in contact with like EYA.
Yes.
Bring them in.
A committee with like
maybe with you, Derek.
Derek, parents that kids are active in, maybe head coaches who are interested in those their programs, having a say in those. But I think that's a ball we need to start rolling and looking at, no matter which way we go with the leagues. So,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Eric, I'd like to see you and Derek kind of champion that, see where we can go with that. Maybe take some time, but make sure we explore that. See what our options are. Like you said, like Nora mentioned, it was definitely students.
Well, especially since this is like the center of our district. You go all the way to Secor Park, you go all the way to 19. This is the center. So everyone says, Archibald's got Archibald, Wasion's got Wasion. We got Evergreen. So we need to figure out how to get the youth here to use our turf field, use our varsity softball field, all this stuff that we have here. Let's worry about that and get the kids here. And we got a good complex.
Just so we're clear on the surveys, it'll be somewhat similar to what you just told us, the stats, kind of the graph, the combination.
Yeah, I'll work with Tony on how to put it together so it's not 45 pages long. Did you want all of the comments as they were submitted to be part of it?
What do you guys think about that?
If we're going to put comments, I want to see them all because I don't want to see pick and choose.
No, exactly. It's either comments or no comments. What does
Agreed.
the board want to see?
I say put them all out there. Put all the comments out.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Correct.
Okay, that's
yeah, but
true.
there's no name to them, right?
There is some that had names as you read through
So can
them.
we leave the ones with names on it out because you're going to see them?
Yeah, then.
Or just block the names out.
Okay.
I would agree if we didn't give them
Okay.
any indication that these would be public. I think it would be overreaching a little bit to publish them all.
Numbers out, graphs.
Someone could have at least assumed they'd be in confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I didn't realize there was names on them.
Yeah, I saw maybe 2 or 3, but that's true. Okay. So just data. Any further discussion on where we are at this point?
In case anybody in the public wants to know that we have seen all of the comments as well. I know that has been a question from time to time, whether we as a board are getting all the information. We're getting all the information.
Yes. Is this could we, do you have the information regarding the potential league proposal that you sent us today?
I don't have that with me.
Can you pass that down to him? It took me a few read overs, so I need it kind of explained to me.
Before we get to this, I just want to say I like how you guys went after this. I think it was what 3 months ago, 4 months ago. I know it was before January when we first talked about this, and it was all informational. And then when I get people in the public coming to talk to me, and I gave the information to them, and I sit in a forum, and I see it's going to come to the board in June. I didn't like that.
Okay.
You know, I repeat what I'm told, whatever information I had. I didn't like that because that makes it sound like I'm keeping stuff secretive and not being honest to the people that voted me in. And I'm just speaking about myself, not the rest of the board. If we look at this, I want as much, if not everything, put to the public. That's the way I feel. So here on out, whatever's found, whatever you guys discuss, you tell us, but everyone out here from the twin curves to Secor, 4 mile wide, is going to know. That way we don't have to do a forum. But I want everything that we can put out to the public. Because I feel like I didn't give them the truth, but it was. I just don't want that to happen again.
I had one of our head coaches approach me today with a proposal that he would like us to consider, and that would be almost being part of a dual league, staying in the NWAL, as well as if there was a new league created and running a dual league, with the dual league being a double round robin, and one of those games counting for the NWAL, since there's a single round robin in that, and with the plan to leave the NWAL for football. So again, this just came to me today. I haven't explored it. I had sent it to you as knowing that it may come up this evening, but looking at the dual league proposition, which the coach said was in place back in 78, 79, where we were in I think it was a Northern Border League as well as the NWAL before that league ended and Evergreen came back into the NWAL and has been there ever since. So I can't speak on this too extensively because it was just given to me today. And I haven't explored the concepts other than looking at how could have the best of both worlds, essentially.
Okay. Derek, would that lead to would we have to have that, I guess, approval from the NWAL to be able to be in two leagues? What kind of sticky ground is there?
I'd have to review the bylaws, as I heard about this from Mr. Smola just a couple hours ago myself. I had no idea this was going to be brought up, so I haven't had a chance to review bylaw in regard to dual
This
league.
is all theoretical as well. I mean,
Well,
even if we wanted to do something like this, theoretically, you'd have to have a bunch of other schools agree to it as well.
Yes, this would be basically what we brought to the forum, those same schools, correct?
Yes.
But staying in the NWL and using that other list that we had there of Eden, Montpelier, Swanton, Delta, Northwood, Ottawa Lake, or Ottawa Hills, I'm sorry, as like that Northern Border League, and working through the NWL and that. So I guess once you guys get more information, more talking about it, get that out there. And I read over it a few times and still went, what? So.
And I don't know if this is a realistic possibility if other schools would be on or not. It was just brought to me today as an idea.
But if we're going to do that, and it's like I talked to Eric, in the forum, we went back 45 years for football. Didn't show any other sport. And then to the district community, we went back 10 years for all the sports. But for some reason, we went back 20 on football. I got 30 years right here.
They have football the entire history. They didn't have the
I know.
history on
I got
anything else.
basketball, volleyball. What I'm saying is if we're going to put stuff out to the public, I want it straight across the board. I want, if we go 30 years for this, we're going 30 years for this. If we're going 25 years for this, we're going 25 years. Keep everything the same. Okay. I don't like it if we're doing this much for this sport or whatever, and then this much for these. Okay. I want comparisons so we know it's every sport or what it is. I want to know who's competing, who's not competing, because it's not about the banners. I want to see who's competing and all that. All right.
Some of the differentiation was what people requested. Will you put up the last 10 years or the last 20? So we were trying to accommodate requests
Okay.
as well.
I'm
But
just,
I understand your point of
I
having
want it straight
clear.
across the board. I'm sure the community wants it straight across the board, but we need to show everything the same. If it's back to 91 or 78 or whatever. So that's how I feel about it. And that's what I would like to see.
Eric did ask us a question though. How do we want to proceed?
Napoleon's committed, right? To the NLL.
I did see a letter saying with their new format that they were committed to the NLL.
We hear anything is BG committed anywhere or getting?
Their current athletic director is taking over the head coaching position at Perrysburg. So to my conversation that I had with Bowling Green's athletic director was a representation of his opinion, no one else's, not the district's. His words were they're phasing him out currently because obviously there's going to be a replacement. So there has not been any further conversation with Bowling Green because I've not reached out outside of your request of Bowling Green.
Right. I was just wondering if they made a move anywhere or not.
Currently, to my knowledge, they have not moved anywhere, no.
All right.
So the main thing is based on our survey results. Unless there is no change or anything, the community supports us staying in. If there were to a change, the community supports us exploring.
Right.
Right now, where do we stand?
Well, I don't think we can make any of those. I mean, we got 20% of the people gave it back. We don't know what the community says at all. Okay, we know what 20% did, right? So I think that was Mr. Smollett's point is we can't really draw any conclusions from that data set. So as I see it, we want to put out data to the public. We don't need to make a decision tonight. We're going to put out data to the public, continue the conversation, let them to continue to get data, and things are changing. We've got new proposals people are bringing in. I don't think we make a decision.
I'm not saying that.
I think we have to just get the information out there. Sounds like we want some more data sets put out to the public. We want the survey results put out to the public. Maybe we get more feedback. Then the administration will be in a better position to advise it. I guess that's where I would say. So
This is my feeling. I'll say I'll agree with it because what I'm going to say is going to follow that. Everyone committed and said what? They're in the league unless further changes, right? I say we commit to the league just like they did, unless there's changes. Swanton didn't go nowhere. Delta didn't go nowhere. Nothing's changed, and it was all informational. And I don't understand why the pressure's on Evergreen when we didn't initiate it. That's my feeling. We didn't initiate this, but all the pressure's on us, and Swanton sitting back, just waiting. There's no change. Or did we initiate this? That's my frustration with this. It was brought to us, and it feels like all the pressure's on us. There's no change in this league. Nothing yet.
It's all really a moot point until Delta decides whether they pass their levy or not anyway, because they won't even explore any.
Bottom line, it's nothing unless someone makes a move, and
nor should they.
It's on us, and I don't know why.
I agree with Matt. I'm good at, I'd like to see the data out for everybody to see. I'd like to get more education to the students. If that's through their coaches, through the athletic director, or if it's like, do they both have NNI, high school and middle school?
Middle
Somewhere
school
where
has
there could be like a
NNI.
presentation, the same presentation to all the students.
I know Hunter didn't get it.
No
I had
students have. Yeah, that's what I'm asking. That
the
came
survey.
from the survey that.
Yeah.
Oh, he received the survey.
No,
through
I
his
know,
email.
but he said he didn't take it. You know, where's that? I'm just saying. I don't know. He just told me he didn't take it.
Um,
Don't know how it's communicated. So
it came to their emails, correct?
Correct.
I
don't know if you
completed it
checked
twice,
them.
once for each of my kids.
What's that?
I completed it twice, once for each of my kids.
Yes, I got 4 of them. I completed 1.
No, I'm
Um,
just saying Hunter. Here.
yeah, they came to their emails. I would like to see the results out to the public. I'd like to see the students get some kind of presentation, and all the middle school and high school student wide, same presentation. Do I feel that it's a moot point at this time? I kind of agree with that. We are not seeing any changes in the NWAL. What I do get from these surveys and from the public right now is they are open to looking if there's a big change in the league. But right now, no, nobody is. So I am right now, I'm fine with kind of tabling it and doing some more looking at these new league proposals and educating our students. And if and when a big change comes, then we jump there. But I don't feel like I'm not ready to make a jump to a league change without other information at this time. So
So basically, be prepared for the dominoes to fall, but wait for some dominoes to
exactly.
fall.
I want to be educated on everything, but I'm not making any moves myself without those dominoes falling, and us not be stuck out in a theoretical, hypothetical league that could or could not happen. So that's where I stand personally.
I agree. I feel like we've remained committed to the NWL. We've never said that we were leaving. I definitely agree with listening, keeping our ear to what's going on. I think we need to start focusing though too on things that came out of this survey. I think the youth programs are going to be big. I think we need to focus more on that. Keep this aside, listen, see what's going on. But I think we have other things we need to focus on priority wise then.
Any further board discussion on this?
I'll be honest with you. I would really like to hear more about Jacob Blanchard and our seniors with their scholarships and our outstanding education programs. I understand the importance of athletics. They have been immensely important to my sons and my family, but I think we're over prioritizing it. I think our academics are outstanding. I think it really should be our emphasis and our focus. And I think we're spending too much time on a subject that is not as important as the others. That's just my thought on it. I'm fine with staying in the league the way it is. If Swanton leaves, I really think we need to look at a change. I think the community would be much more open to a change if Swanton looks at leaving or Delta looks at leaving. Personally, I can't imagine being in a league without either of those teams. Uh, but I live over in the Swanton Delta area. I don't live in the Washington Archibald area, so people on the other side of the district may have a completely different thought than I do on it. Again, I would like to congratulate our seniors on their outstanding year. I would like to thank our administration, our teachers, our staff on having our students in-person class from the middle of August till now. I'd like to thank our athletic department for having a full football season, soccer season, golf season, basketball, wrestling, girls basketball, and well into spring sports. I think it is a Herculean effort and a minor miracle that we've gotten till April and not had any major outbreaks. And again, I think we're spending way too much time focusing on something. Our kids are going to participate in athletics either way. They're going to participate if we're in the league, if we're not in the league. I'll be honest, sports were awful when I was here. I had a great time. I learned a lot of lessons. With that being said, I would certainly like to see our kids win more. Losing is awful. It can be demoralizing to lose to bigger schools all the time. Either way, our kids are going to be fine. There's Zach. There's my piece.
So Don does bring up a good point, though. We will get there. We will invest our time and our efforts in there. All of us here mean that. But it's going to take time. It's not going to happen next season. It's going to take time. And we need the community support for that.
And the community needs to know that we're listening. I'll be honest, I've been a little disheartened that people say, well, the decision's made already and you guys aren't listening. We are listening. I quite honestly, I take offense to that because I have taken time to listen to anyone who has wanted to speak to me about it and taken their thoughts personally. And like I said, I take offense to that because we are all listening, I believe.
I just hope we get ideas from the community too, what to do with a youth program here. You know, everyone knows what Wasion does, what Archibald does, what they all do with their youth. And we can be right there with them. We just need
but we also
time and help. And
we need buy-in from the community.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just us appointing someone youth athletic coordinator. We need parent buy-in. I mean, it's very important that everyone who said we need community participation participates. You know, everyone included. If we're gonna do this and improve our athletic program, it's what we all row together. Correct? We need to all row in the same direction. In otherwise, the board can do whatever, move to whatever league. It really is not going to make any difference at all unless we improve those things.
All right. Anyone else on the board with questions or concerns? No? All right, then at this time, I need a motion for the members of Evergreen Local Board of Education, Superintendent, Treasurer, and invited guests to go into executive session for the following reasons: to prepare for negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees concerning compensation and other terms and conditions of employment.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Vakulik,
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. There will be action after the executive session. You can see it there on your agendas. So how long that takes, I am not 100% sure, but we will have action after that. And high school students, if you're here for Mr. Blanchong, you can get Mr. Curtis your papers. And thank you everybody for attending.
I thought you did very well, Don.